The Apollo Missions. Theme song by Noel O. Judas. Project Apollo started in 1968. Its missions set record dates. The Russians were in competition, but the U.S. had a special mission. Apollo missions would be on the cover of newspaper pages, with its 18 critical stages. Thanks to experience from the Gemini, the Apollo missions learned how to fly. Apollo 1 was the crew of 3. Burned up before they could get free. 15 C of pure oxygen backfired against them. What a sin. Thanks to a new design, next Apollo missions would be able to get out in case of emergency just fine. Asphyxiation was the cause. Sending crews into space officially became paused. Missions 2 to 6 were unmanned flights. Crews were not to be sent on missions until everything was just right. Apollo 7 made news, and was the first live TV broadcast from an American spacecraft. The Apollo vehicle and the CSM performed superbly. Lasted 10.8 days, what a pretty long journey. Apollo 7 flew into lunar Earth orbit, all thanks to the Saturn 1B rocket. Competition with the Russians was high, but Apollo 8 was just too heavy to fly. Original plans to test lunar module in Earth orbit had to be forfeit. NASA changed the mission of Apollo 8. We had to beat the Russians. We had to be the almighty and great. Apollo 8 was to go to the moon, go into lunar orbit, returning safely and soon. The crew would travel 250,000 miles, a task that could only end in smiles. They approached the moon on its night side. So far the journey seemed well worth the ride. They successfully circled the moon 10 times. Safe to say US was in its prime. Next was Apollo number 9. Its objective to test the first manned flight test of the lunar module went just fine. Apollo 10 had its first rehearsal in a lunar environment without fright. Next, Apollo 11 was surely a sight. President Kennedy set goals high. Apollo 11 had more to do than just fly on by. The elite crew had to perform a lunar landing. This required them on the moon standing. They were the first to ever step foot on the moon. No one thought this could happen so soon. The Sea of Tranquility gave them the ability. They performed a single Ava and set up the American flag. We now have every right to brag. Apollo 12 performed 2 Avas. The U.S. continued making progress without delay. Just as everything was going right, Apollo 13 couldn't finish its flight. An explosion on board forced Apollo 13 to circle the moon without landing. The crew luckily returned to Earth safe and still standing. Apollo 14 made up for the incident. Astronaut Shepard performed a golf shot on the moon. How magnificent! The surface of the moon was captured with the first colored video photos. Apollo 15 was capable of longer stay time, with 4 objectives mined. Explorations and experiments were their task. Carrying the lunar rover, making discovery of Genesis Rock. The lunar highlands is where they flocked. In early 1972 is when Apollo Mission 16 flew. With help of the lunar rover, the Descartes Highlands were reached. Finally comes last but not least, number 17 of all the fleets. Geologists and crews scanned the surface for nearly a full Earth day. They brought back 233 pounds of moon sample. Hooray! Going beyond Earth orbit has not been done since then. Apollo missions could not have been without brave astronauts and crewmen. Project Apollo has seen its end. Who knows the next time we shall ascend?